Well, hello everyone. It's Just Dwayne. Let's talk some gear. So that's pretty much all about my underquilt. Again, I have a jackson better that is a down one that I'll use if the temperatures are getting 50 to 55 or below, then I'll use that one. I generally will use this one to, like I said, 50 or 55 degrees. I actually have another insert that I can tie in that gives me another layer of Insultech. And that seems to do a good job as far as that goes. But the weight savings is about the same as what the net weighs. So for me, when I don't need the net anymore is generally when the weather gets colder, and so then I'll switch to the down underquilt, because that way even if the temperature drops more, I'm still covered and I feel a little bit more comfortable in it. So it's worked out as a good system for me. If I have the bug net, then generally I use the Insultech and the weight stays the same and I stay nice and warm. So the next component is the hammock itself, and there's probably the least to say about it. So a War Bonnet Traveler, it's a great hammock. Again, I had a Blackbird, I still have the Blackbird, and I like it a lot. They feel about the same to me when I lay in it. The foot box is important in the Blackbird because you have the bug netting attached, and so in order to have extra room for your feet, you need to have a foot box. In the Traveler, you don't really have that circumstance because you can lay all the way to the edges of the hammock, and so there's plenty of room, at least for my feet. You know, I'm not the tallest guy, so I don't know how that would work for someone that was 6 feet or 6.5 feet tall, but for me it certainly worked well. And then again, I replaced the ends of the hammock. I got the tree straps with it, which is a great system. And if you're a new guy, I really recommend you trying out the tree straps and using that for the first couple of times. They're bulkier, they're a little bit heavier, they are very convenient and very easy to set up. And then once you do that a couple of times, it really facilitates you understanding how your whole system works, so that, you know, next time you know better what are the whoopee slings doing, what are they replacing, how's that all work. So, because it's a little bit kind of confusing, I think, until you actually get out and put your hands on it to understand how these pieces are working. So again, not much more to say about the hammock. It's a great hammock, it's a very light hammock, and the way it works in my system, it just stays on the inside of the underquilt. So the biggest challenge that I have is making sure that, since I have 3 distinct layers, I have the net layer, I have the underquilt layer, and I have the hammock layer, is to make sure that when I sit, that I sit in the hammock layer. You know, one nice thing about the shock cords, if you go to sit down into just the underquilt, it'll let you know, because it doesn't give you any stability there. So go ahead and sit down in the hammock. You'll see it makes a great gear chair as far as that goes. The little line's a little bit bothersome sometimes, but fortunately I'm not all that tall, so it doesn't get in my way too badly. And I try to keep it so that I have some shift, you know, the 90-degree bend when I'm in the hammock. One other thing I did do as far as the structural ridge line went is I've played a lot with the amount of sag that I want in the hammock. And so I replaced the stock structural ridge line with a whoopee sling ridge line, and that lets me adjust the length to make it shorter, longer. I couldn't tell you what the length of it is right now. Maybe I'll go ahead and look at that and annotate that. But so far, this is a pretty comfortable setup for me right now. And so whenever I'm getting ready to get into my hammock, basically what I'll do is, you know, sit down. I'll start to go ahead and pull up the bug net. I'll start to zipper it up some. Generally don't worry about the top end. Kick off my shoes. And then lay into my hammock. So as you'll see, And if it's cold, I'll go ahead and snap this up onto the ridge line on the inside. And I end up with an underquilt that stays completely wrapped around me. Okay. Now again, I didn't get the ends exactly right, so right now I'm probably a little bit feet high. And a lot of people talk about liking their feet high because it keeps them from feeling like they're sliding. And so that really doesn't seem to work for me. I prefer to have it level because I don't like the feeling of sleeping on, popping a wheelie, if you will. I really like to feel flat. And while I think I am pretty flat, it's just, it's perception. It's whatever works for you. Everybody's different. So once I'm in the hammock, then I'll reach up, zip up the bug net. I usually keep the bug net opening up here by my head. So there you go. There's my system. I do keep one little flashlight up on the line. Ultimately, I'm going to make a gear organizer. And so there you go. One thing that I will point out while I'm in here is I don't have my net staked out. Don't know if you can see it or not, but it's probably the weight of the zipper as much as anything, how it pulls down towards my face. So, when I'm laying off to the side, you'll see that it kind of pulls up, it lays on my nose, because I tend to lay pretty extreme in the diagonal. And so, if you look to where the piece of grosgrain is, when it's tied up, it pulls the net out like this, so it keeps it completely off my face, and that's really been a great addition. Okay, now that we've talked about all the different pieces of it, let's talk about how it tears down. Again, the reason why I really like using my hammock python is that it makes it very easy to set up and take down. Again, the only thing missing is the top quilt, and so I would take it out and pack it separately. Everything else tends to stay in my gear hammock, which you've seen in my gear hammock video that will ride up above. So basically, whenever I'm ready to set up, the only thing I got to do is I'll go ahead and grab these shock cord tie-outs that I've added, keep the bug net off of my face. And I just stick them in so that they stay out of the way. Zip up the bug net. Okay. After that, all I do is come up to the end of the python. I'll pull it open and just start to slide it down. And there's really nothing to it. With the Insultech, it's very simple because it's so small. It just kind of slides on. You'll see there's a good bit of room left in that python. Whenever I have my down underquilt on, then it takes a little bit longer, only because I kind of squeeze the underquilt and then slide it down, squeeze the underquilt, slide it down, and so the tube will stay a lot fuller, kind of more like a sausage. Sausage, making me hungry. So again, I custom made this this python. It wasn't much to it. It was one of the first sewing projects that I did. Basically all I did was measured the length that I was going to need, and then I figured out a diameter. Don't remember what that was. I think it's like 10 inches on this, and then doubled over the seam, and then I steam seal it. There is one seam in the middle because the piece that I had wasn't long enough, so I put two pieces together. But other than that, that's really it. As far as taking it the rest of the way down, I pull it off the tree huggers. What I do is I fold it in half, find the halfway point. I fold it down into about a third, okay? So you'll see, because it's waterproof, you know, you end up with a little bit of air, but I'm folding it towards the free end. And so the air just wants to escape there anyhow. Then I take my Z-Pack bag. Stick my hammock up in it. And you see with that fold, it gets me to where I got 2/3 of the hammock just shoved in there pretty simply. And then what I do is I just start doing little S-bends in the hammock. Of course, now that I'm on video, right, it'll be hard. When I get to the end, pull it taut, and there you go. So there's my whole hammock suspension, my whole hammock system. Like I said, the suspension, I just wind it up in one hand, and I'll stick it inside the pocket first and then put it upside down this way, and it's worked great. I've been in rainstorms, my whole system stayed fine. This system has worked out really well for me. It's very easy for me to set up. You saw, even trying to explain it with the video, it didn't take very long at all. So that's my system. Thanks for coming along, and I look forward to seeing you again on the trail.